Hey everyone, chaomix here. I'm sick of this guy. Yeah, this guy right here. The one I can't seem to stop making videos about. You're probably asking yourself, well, what do? Spit in your cereal? Kick your dog? Oh, it's much worse than that. I just don't like the way he looks. Alright, I know that sounds pretty shallow, and I promise I'm not trying to bully our beloved blue rat. Let me explain myself. It's not that I don't like Sonic's design. In fact, I think it's a complete mastery of the art of character design as a whole. He's got an immediately recognizable silhouette, a vibrant color palette, and perfect proportions that makes his character extremely readable. I mean, just look at him. You can tell exactly what this guy is all about just by the way that he's shaped. Sonic's look is absolutely iconic. After all, his appearance was engineered to appeal to the masses, rival Nintendo and their mascot Mario, and sell consoles. And sell consoles he did. He's the main character of his own video game series, 30 years ongoing. The mascot of SEGA themselves, which is a multi-billion-dollar company by the way, and arguably one of the most important video game figures of all time. But that's exactly where the problem lies. If the way Sonic looks is as important as I'm saying, shouldn't it be a decent priority to ensure that this look is highly valued and always up to snuff with the standards of modern video games? I think so at least, but if you look at the recent history with how SEGA has treated Sonic's look, I get the impression that they don't. SEGA has let Sonic go stale. You want to know what else has gone stale? The name brand cereal in my pantry. For real, ever since I learned how bad that stuff is for you, all the sugar they have in them, I regretfully had to give it up. Or so I thought. Because that's where today's sponsor, Magic Spoon, comes into play. With Magic Spoon, you don't have to feel the guilt that comes with wanting to have a nostalgic spoonful of cereal like back in the good old days of watching Saturday morning cartoons as a kid. Because Magic Spoon not only tastes as amazing, if not better than those cereals you used to eat as a kid, but it's also healthy. Magic Spoon cereals have 0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of protein, and only 4 net grams of carbs in each serving. They're also keto-friendly, gluten-friendly, grain-free, soy-free, and low-carb. Just one spoonful and you'll be hit with a huge wave of nostalgia, remembering all those cozy mornings as a kid, watching all your favorite cartoons with a bowl of cereal. I got the variety pack, so I got to try out all sorts of flavors. It's really hard to decide my favorite since they're all so good. You've got cocoa, fruity, frosted, peanut butter, cookies and cream, and maple waffle. Plus, there's a few awesome new flavors like blueberry and cinnamon. But if I had to choose, I think my current favorite's gotta be the frosted flavor. They literally taste just like marshmallows. Click the link in my description to build your own variety pack and try it out today. Use code chaomix5 or go to magicspoon.com/chaomix5 for $5 off any order. And Magic Spoon is so confident that you'll love their product that if you dislike it for any reason, they'll refund you your money, no questions asked. Huge thank you to Magic Spoon for sponsoring this video, and with all that being said, let's get on to today's episode. This is Sonic the Hedgehog, at least the current iteration that we've come to know. But there are many other iterations of Sonic to come from days of past, starting with the original compact design by Naoto Oshima, to the more eccentric stylization of the adventure design by Yuji Uekawa, and now the more modernized 3D interpretation that we have today. And there's also a ton of other experimental spin-off iterations of Sonic out there, like the angular and sharp depiction of Sonic from Sonic Battle, or the more sketchy and wild iteration of the character in Sonic Riders. Back in the early days, SEGA always seemed to be trying something new with the character, trying out different proportions, giving him additional accessories, rendering him in 2D, rendering him in 3D, just pushing his design to its absolute limits in all mediums. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But the awesome thing was that they never seemed to dwell on the failures because they were already neck deep in developing the next more advanced version of Sonic, or doing something else completely out of left field to spice things up. And especially because 3D technology was rapidly evolving, and even with trends in art style changing, Sonic's design had to evolve and change with it. Look at it this way, it'd be weird if SEGA kept using the same 3D model from the Sonic R render after all this time, wouldn't it? Like they just decided, alright, this is it. This is the Sonic model that we're sticking with. No more after this one. We've peaked. That would be ridiculous, right? I mean, think of all the things that they haven't tried out with Sonic's design at that point. All of the advancements in 3D technology not being taken advantage of. The new trends in art styles that are being missed out on. It sounds like it'd be a pretty stubborn decision if you ask me. But what if I told you this is exactly what SEGA has been doing? Not with the Sonic R model, of course, but with another model all the way back from 2005, the modern Sonic model. The first appearance of the modern Sonic model, as far as I can tell, originally debuted within the Shadow the Hedgehog promotional art from 2005. You can find him right here in the instruction manual for the game. In all honesty, this isn't a bad model by any means. I mean, I'd go as far as to say he looks pretty damn cool. A huge improvement in graphical fidelity compared to anything else we'd seen prior. But the issue is that SEGA has been using this very model for 17 years straight. Well, more or less. Because since 2005, they've made slight tweaks to iron out the wrinkles. Like, look at this weird fold in the leg. Kinda gross, but stuff like that would be refined as the years went on. But besides some of these small technical improvements and maybe shifting around some of the proportions ever so slightly, this has more or less been the same exact Sonic we've known for 17 entire years. Don't believe me? Look at the shape of his ears, the butt brow, and the fold of his shoe cuffs. This model from 2005 is essentially the same model from this promotional render the official Japanese Twitter account posted just days before the time of making this video, all these years later. Of course, something like this wasn't suited for in-game use back in 2005. He was way too detailed to import and have the game run smoothly. After all, back then we still had character models looking like this. So we'd still see a few more unique and original variations of Sonic's in-game model for a little bit longer, like in Shadow the Hedgehog, the storybook games, and some of the handheld games. But we would see this modern Sonic model in the high-quality rendered promotional images for his games and basically all of SEGA's marketing material that Sonic appeared in from that point forward. Sonic 06, for whatever reason, seems to be the only exception that used unique models for both in-game and CGI renders. Unfortunately, this was the last time we'd ever see a completely unique Sonic model in a mainline game. Starting from Sonic Unleashed, we'd finally have the technical capabilities to put a version of this modern Sonic model into actual gameplay. Like I said with Sonic's 2005 CGI model from Shadow the Hedgehog, this isn't a bad model by any means. And the way he's animated with a mix of motion capture and adjustments by hand to clean it up leads to a really expressive Sonic like how we've always known him at that point. But out of all of the games this model will appear in, this is already the peak of what we're about to see, because it's all unfortunately downhill from here. Like I mentioned before, the modern Sonic model does receive a few minor tweaks here and there from game to game. In Sonic Colors, they'd reuse this model, but with it being on the Wii, they'd obviously have to make some adjustments, like lowering the poly count, for example. But I'd say the biggest difference has to be the decline in the quality of animation. From this game forward, most cutscenes are just characters standing around flailing their arms. Expressions are also significantly weaker from here on out when compared to the previous games, even from Unleashed, which uses almost the exact same model. Then there's Sonic 4 Episode 1 and 2. These games were the ones that spawned a ton of these lackluster renders that we keep seeing reused over and over to this day. Not much to say about Sonic here other than this is probably the point that this model started to feel the most lifeless and corporate. Generations uses the modern Sonic model once again, but this time it's back to the higher poly count of the HD systems. Less polys compared to Unleashed for optimization reasons, but honestly you can barely tell the difference. However, while this game uses a similar model to Unleashed, it regretfully doesn't have the same quality of animation to match it. Again, characters just stand around and flail their arms in cutscenes, as we'll keep seeing time and time again. The next game, Sonic Lost World, would go on to use this modern Sonic model yet again, but they'd make some more noticeable tweaks to the proportions of Sonic. Mainly, the length of his limbs are a bit more stubby. One thing this game tried doing was making the in-game animations a bit more lively and cartoony, which is something I have to commend. For example, you've got the squash and stretch on the bounce attack and the figure 8 effect for his running animation. This is some nice stylization that's been missing for quite a while at this point, but this only really applies to a few of the in-game animations, as the cutscenes are par for the course with the other recent games. Then there's Sonic Boom. Okay, so this one is kind of a mixed bag. They actually went out of their way to make completely unique models for every character. Obviously, I mean, they're completely redesigned, but that's kind of where things get a bit iffy. I've been commending SEGA for experimenting with Sonic's look, but I think this time it might have been taken a bit too far. Remember, sometimes these experimental designs worked, sometimes they didn't. But most other alternate iterations of Sonic didn't change his core design, just the stylization or proportions of the character, and I think that's why the Sonic Boom designs didn't really work. So yeah, while it's cool they wanted to change it up, I think this one crossed that line of changing the core design, which is why a lot of people weren't happy. On the bright side, characters are probably the most expressive they've ever been in a long time. All the animations are super fluid and take full advantage of the fact that these are stretchy cartoon characters. However, Sonic Boom is a spin-off series, not part of the mainline continuity since it was developed outside of Sonic Team, so I wouldn't exactly consider it breaking the streak of reusing the modern Sonic model, because as we'll see in just a second, SEGA seems adamant on their decision to keep reusing it. Sonic Forces, our next mainline Sonic game developed by Sonic Team. To no one's surprise, yes, we're still reusing the modern Sonic model, at least as a basis. See, you've got the same curved ears, butt brow, and folds in the cuffs. But out of all of them, I'd say this is the most altered. First, his stubbier proportions from Lost World are still present. His quills have been shortened, the placement of one of the middle spikes was placed a bit higher for a more consistent side view silhouette of the character, and his shade of blue was also changed to be a bit lighter. This all seems to point to them wanting to bring modern Sonic closer to his classic counterpart, which I always thought was kind of a weird decision considering how classic Sonic is literally in this game. You'd think they'd want to make these two characters as distinct as possible so you don't get them confused. It's already super confusing why there are still two separate Sonics outside of generations, so this definitely didn't help. I'd personally consider these changes to the model as downgrades, but I know that there's a lot of people who do prefer this one. However, I think something most people can agree on is the fact that the animations in Sonic Forces may be some of the worst we've ever seen. Sonic doesn't even blink. Like, look at his idle pose. His eyes must be so dry. Oh, and you may notice something else here. Or rather, the lack of something. Something that's been present in basically every Sonic game. Something that gave this once mute character unrivaled personality and charm compared to any of its competitors. This dude got no sassy waiting animations. In fact, this dude got no waiting animations at all. This might sound like a ridiculous nitpick, but listen to the words that are about to come out of my mouth. You may be severely underestimating how important these little character details add up to be. First, they limited the character's opportunity for stylization by limiting themselves to this one model. Next, they stripped him of his ability to expressively emote. Then, they tossed away any hope of having dynamic and cinematic action in their cutscenes. Next, they doubled down on all their decisions to keep things bland. And now, they did away with anything in-game depicting personality. So what are we left with? A soulless corporate shell of a once lively and adventurous blue hedgehog. And what are we supposedly getting in this next game, Sonic Frontiers? The Sonic game that's supposed to define the next decade of games, push the franchise into new territories, and invoke hope in us fans that have been waiting for so long for a new direction of the series? Well, if what they've been showing us is true, exactly this. Exactly what we've been getting for the past 17 years, which, in my opinion, only keeps getting worse and worse with each new installment. Now, with the exception of that last bit, I've been being pretty objective up until now. We've basically just gone over the history of the modern Sonic model with that little rant there at the end. But I want to flip things around a bit. I want to roast the absolute hell out of this guy because I am sick of his ugly little face. If you couldn't tell, I have quite a few criticisms with the way Sonic's look has been handled for, I don't know, the past decade or so. And just to clarify, both model and animation play a big part in the look and feel of this character. I don't think it's just one or the other, so we'll be kind of talking about both. Alright, let's talk about this guy's ugly mug. I'm just gonna start ranting here, so don't mind me. I hate this gross ass brow. Something about it is just phallic looking. Also, it's way too wide. It leaves a huge gap in between Sonic's eyes and it doesn't look good. His upper brow is really thin. It used to protrude out a lot more in the past. Probably one of the reasons he's forced to emote with only his eyelids now, but we'll be getting into that later. While we're still talking about the general eye region, his eyes are a lot more flatly colored in general. Compare this to his Heroes model, which uses this strong dark outline and highlight at the edge, super faithful to Uekawa's art. Mwah. Chef's kiss. I hate his ears. They're like curved downward at the bottom, but should be curved upward, and they should probably just be bigger in general. Possibly one of the worst things about this model is actually how the muzzle barely curves with his eyes. It's kind of just like flat and gives the shape of his eyes a really boring, unexpressive feel to them. The shape of his eyes should be kind of like a figure eight, but here it's only like half a figure eight. Something that probably plays into this issue is how his cheeks are kind of almost non-existent. If they had a bit more volume and were raised a little bit more, that would definitely help give that figure eight shape. Last nitpick about the muzzle, it sits off his face way too much and takes away from the circular shape of his head. Keeping in this general area of the body, he's also got this stupid smile with his awful bottom lip. I don't know why it pisses me off so much, but I absolutely hate it. And to think we traded the Nike swoosh and Amazon logo smiles for this. Oh yeah, look at his dumb banana-shaped spikes. These things look like floppy torpedoes, not razor-sharp quills. The shoes, they suck. If you know me, you'll know I'm a huge hot dog shoe fanatic. I just think the longer and more nimble looking shoes do a lot more at showing that the character is fast on his feet compared to these clothing iron shaped metal looking ass shoes. I hate them. Compared to some of the insanely expressive and exaggerated poses he's had in the past, modern Sonic looks like he's walking around with a stick up his ass. He is so stiff, and the fact that he's a rubber hose cartoon rat is certainly not being taken advantage of. It just leads to these promotional renders being so lifeless. There is basically no personality here at all. How am I supposed to know this guy's got an extreme attitude when he's just standing there all stiffly with his dumb smile like the little mouth breather he is? And like I've been saying, this has been reflected in the cutscenes as well. Characters waddle around all stiffly and flail their arms up and down when they talk. I guess they're just not made for dynamic action poses or something, which would explain why there's hardly ever any action within any of the cutscenes. Even their facial expressions are super lackluster. Characters pretty much exclusively emote with their eyelids. It's like they might as well not even have any brows. It's funny because I still think Sonic Adventure 1 is the king of Sonic facial animations, and that was the first 3D game in the series. How have we not surpassed this more than 20 years later? After 17 years, I am just so sick of this Sonic. I get why SEGA likes reusing this model, but it feels like all of its use has been squeezed out at this point and it's just dry. And while I do think the complaints about the slight changes to the Forces model are valid, I think the real issue isn't that the character changed, it's that the character didn't change enough. After all this time, I'm just bored of him. If you ask me, Sonic is in desperate need of being revitalized. And I'm not talking about changing his core design like Boom did, I'm talking about making a new Sonic from the ground up. So to really illustrate what I mean by this, I want to show a few pieces of fan art that do an amazing job at showing the potential of a new Sonic. The first one is this custom Sonic model by Gryz, allegedly based on a mixture of all of the previous Sonic models. I can really see the inspiration most though from the Super Smash Bros. Brawl model and the Storybook series model. My favorite aspects of this model are the pointier ears, the flatter muzzle that actually curves along the bottom of his eyes, and the stretchier looking shoes. I would not be opposed to Sonic looking something like this in the future. The second one is this custom Sonic model by Mike, aka Ganondorf, which does an amazing job at redoing this promotional piece in a more stylized way. I just love how noodly Sonic is with his limbs and shoes. This model just fixes a lot of the issues I have with the shapes and proportions of the official one. He's just so expressive here with the posing. I think both of these Sonics do a great job at showing what we can have if SEGA was willing to break free of the arbitrary decision to keep reusing the same model. If you like either of these two models, make sure to give these artists a follow. I'll have a link to their stuff in the description. Some people might claim that all Sonic fans did for the past decade and a half was complain about inconsistency, and now we have the audacity to complain about consistency, but I don't think that's an entirely accurate portrayal of what's happening here. We spent the past decade and a half complaining about mediocre products, not simply because there was change. And some people might consider this desire for a new Sonic as change for the sake of change. After all, if it ain't broken, don't fix it, right? But I don't think asking for a more stylistic take on Sonic's character after 17 years is change for the sake of change. And if we can do better, if we have the potential to make a better, more expressive, and more stylistic Sonic, Why should we arbitrarily limit ourselves like this and not try? I feel like this is actually consistency for the sake of consistency, which isn't inherently a good thing, especially considering how SEGA only found this consistency after stripping Sonic away of almost everything that made his character so special. When it comes to Sonic Frontiers, could this model be a placeholder? Absolutely, and I'd gladly eat my words if so. But until that's confirmed, we can only go off of what they've shown us, and for now, that's the fact that they're reusing this same modern Sonic model that they've been using as a base for the past 17 years. And not only that, it's the downgraded version from Sonic Forces. But even so, is this the end of the world? Well, this is a video game we're talking about, so I would say that gameplay takes priority here. But I do still think Sonic's look is an important concern to bring up, especially as early on as possible, to give the devs time to change things up if they do decide to do so. And I don't know about you, but I have the energy to talk about both gameplay and Sonic's model. I think people severely overestimate the amount of effort it takes to write up a quick opinion online about Sonic's look. Sonic's design does matter, and this is a conversation we shouldn't be afraid of having just because some people who are indifferent about it don't like it. If we pretend that Sonic's look doesn't matter, it can lead to extremely out-of-touch decisions like the Sonic Boom redesigns or even the original Sonic movie design. Yeah, we don't want that to happen again. Anyways, I won't rest until we fully realize the intro to Sonic CD in a completely playable 3D environment. Don't at me. Hey everyone, thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. If you like what you saw, leave a like and subscribe for more content such as this. In the comments below, let me know what you think of the modern Sonic model. Are you sick of it after all this time, or do you really not mind it? And to take that discussion even further, make sure to join our community Discord. I'll leave a link to that in the description. And finally, you know I gotta thank my amazing channel members. You all rock and are my #1 motivators for making these videos. If you'd also like to become a channel member for only $2 along with getting some pretty awesome perks, press the join button beneath this video or the channel membership link in the description for more details. And with all that being said, I hope everyone has a fantastic day. Peace.
Wake up.